Hello, welcome back to Cartooning with Paul. Today, I'm going to show you how to draw Mickey from head to toe. We're going to do some posing, so come on, let's get started. Alright guys, like I said, we're drawing Mickey's whole body today. We drew Goofy's whole body as a request, and you guys seem to like when I draw Mickey Mouse, so we're going to draw Mickey's whole body. We're going to go over the ins and outs, the do's, the don'ts. Let's dive right on in. Here, before we go too far, let's begin with a little review on how to draw Mickey's head. Now, Mickey's head always starts as a perfect circle. If he's looking straight at us, that vertical axis goes straight down the middle, and then the horizontal axis goes right across the middle. The snout is always resting on that line right there. The nose goes just below that line, and then you can use the rest of this snout line to show you where to put the mouth. The eyes are separated one eye width apart on either side of that vertical axis line. The cheek shapes have to follow this laugh line, just like that. And his hairline has to follow the shape of his eye. So if we take this shape and this shape, come right up to the top of the head, we draw it in that shape like that, and then we're going to follow this shape just like this. Make sure that this part of the line touches the outer line of that head shape. We do the same thing on this side. This line here follows like that. Okay, I always start with the three circles first. Not quite sure how I started with the face, but there we are. Okay. And now for some do's and don'ts in how to draw Mickey Mouse. We're going to go over a lot of the mistakes that people make when drawing Mickey, and I'm going to show you how to correct them. Some common problems I see with a lot of people's drawings of Mickey Mouse. Sometimes they'll draw the ears too small or too big. I never start the drawing with Mickey's face. What I will do first is make sure I've got a nice round circle, and then I will make sure to give the proper size to those ears before I do anything. Animator Ward Kimball once said, as long as you have a quarter and 2 dimes, you've got Mickey Mouse. So from there, that's when I would put in those guidelines and make sure those facial features go in place. Remember, when you're putting in the ears, they need to be at a 45-degree angle of the center axis lines. Another mistake I find that people make is they'll start drawing in that face before they draw in the head shape. They'll put in the eyes, then they'll draw that nose, and then they'll go with the mouth, and then they'll do that hairline. Always make sure that you've got the proper foundation for that face before you start putting in those facial features. And once you have those guidelines in, drawing those proportions is a heck of a lot easier. One thing that you can avoid by making sure you've got those underdrawings in there is that hairline way out of whack. This is another thing that drives me crazy when people draw Mickey Mouse. And professionals are doing it too. You get that underdrawing in there, and then you know where to put that face. And then you'll know where to put that hairline. That hairline has to follow the shape of the eye, and it has to touch the outer part of that circle. you only see a slight V shape at the top of Mickey's head. The side of his head has to touch right about here. And that's right about where you put the ears. You know, it's probably a little messy the way I'm doing this, but hopefully you see what I'm trying to do here. And while we're at it, another thing people do is they'll just guess where that mouth goes. Where if you draw in a light outline of an oval before you draw anything, make sure that this nose is in the upper part of that oval. Now you'll see where to draw in that mouth. That mouth has to, that mouth shape has to follow the contour of the bottom of his snout. And then you can open the mouth. I tend to protrude the cheeks out a little bit more than the industry standard. I like to push those cheeks out. It's something that they did in the 50s, and I always felt that it added to his charm. If I'm given a specific project and I'm told to stay on model, I'll make sure I keep it within the confines of the circle, but for the most part, that right there is an artistic choice. But the hairline should never be in the center of the head like that. So if you follow the basic rules of how to draw Mickey, and you follow them in the order that is really meant to be followed, that cross is directly in the center of that circle. The ears are about this big on the 45-degree angle of this, and everything else should fall into place just fine. Alright, now when drawing Mickey Mouse, we gotta remember that Mickey is 2.5 heads tall. So what that means is we're going to take his head size, we're gonna come down here, I'm gonna draw a little line in there. We're also gonna do a half a head down below that. So there we go. That is the height of Mickey Mouse right there. His torso is actually a little higher than that line right there. So we've got Mickey's body shape just like this. But who wants to draw a Mickey Mouse like that? I sure don't. What I like to do is I like to push that gesture, but let's figure out what kind of a gesture to do. So let's do some rough thumbnails, and we're gonna figure out how we want to make these gestures here. And one thing about how we pose Mickey is his shoulders go backward and his belly goes forward. And then to counterbalance, his legs need to come backward like so. And then, you know, you get his foot in here, and then we'll go back in and we'll figure out exactly what we're looking to do with the gesture. He could be, let's see. His hands in his pockets. There we go. There's a pose where perhaps he's waiting for somebody for a little while. Maybe Goofy's running late, and he's just kind of sitting there. Or maybe he's feeling a little down, and he's doing some heavy thinking. Maybe we have him running. So here's the head right there like that. And to give him that pose that he's running really quickly, it's a good idea to really push the dynamics so that he's pushing his head forward for momentum, and his body will arch back like this. We want to really exaggerate the legs and the feet. Like so. Now if this leg is in the back, and this leg is in the front, this leg is going back here like this, to counterbalance, the front arm and the front hand will be pushed forward like that. And then because this is the back leg, his back arm and hand will be back here like this. And don't be afraid to make this one a little smaller than this one for force perspective. And another way of pushing that he's running really quickly is to stretch out his ears like so. Like they're being pulled back. All right. Pull back that nose a little bit too. Now, what if he's doing here I am pose? Like he's on stage and he's welcoming his guests for the first time. Maybe we will give him an iconic pose like this. You want to separate the legs a little bit. Oh, I'm pushing that foot a little too far. Okay. The other will go like this. Drawing his hands like this with open palms. Now notice that these are only thumbnail sketches. They're very rough. They're not supposed to be anything with any real detail involved. Okay, so let's do a quick sketch of Mickey, and we're going to give him a costume change. Every now and then you're going to get a job where you're going to be expected to dress Mickey in something aside from his standard red shorts and yellow shoes. So how do we go about doing that? Well, there are certain rules you have to follow when putting other clothes on a character like Mickey. One is if you're going to give him a baggy t-shirt, let's say, you don't want to give him an upturn on that shirt. It's boring to draw it straight across. So you definitely want it baggy, but you don't want it up this way. Otherwise, you're going to show belly, right? So what needs to be done is you need to start from the back and dip it down. Okay? You're able to make it as baggy as you want as long as you follow the form initially and make sure that it dips downward in the front. Pants, for the most part, you want to taper in toward the bottom. If you want it a little baggy here or there for a certain style, that's fine, but you want to make sure that it tapers downward. When drawing shoes, I don't care what kind of shoe, it has to initially follow the shape of his yellow shoes. If they're cowboy boots, you need to make sure that you work off of that shape to give the idea of a cowboy boot. Okay? Baseball cleats, astronaut shoes, they all have to initially come off of this shape. This looks horrible. I don't draw a lot of cowboy boots, I guess, but you get the idea, right? So, the toe will go here. Let's get a tip there. Here, let's give him spats over here on this side. Okay, now drawing sleeves on a character. this arm is kind of going backward, right? It's behind his torso. So if you're to give him short sleeves, one, you want to make sure that gravity works in your favor. So the top of the sleeve will always follow the contour of his arm. It can come out a little bit toward the end of the sleeve, but because the elbow is going backward, you want to dip downward with the sleeve. On this arm, because his arm is kind of going forward a little bit, okay, again, you want to make sure that the top part of the sleeve follows the contour of the arm. We'll come out a little bit, but now we're going to go this way with the sleeve to allow the form to show you that it's rounded and it's coming toward you. All right? Okay. If you're going to add a hat onto Mickey, these ears are still prominent. These ears don't hide inside the hat. All right, so if we were to give him like a baseball cap, we're gonna work off of the shape of his head, just like so. And then you can add in the bill of the hat. But those ears, they come out here. You don't have to ever show where the ears come out of, just as long as that hat is in front of the ears at all times. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to give a finish line over this rough sketch just to give you some reinforcement on why we do certain lines the way we do them. Okay, so first of all, let's just have some fun outlining Mickey here. Now, his eyes are in a concentrated look, right? The batter is staring down the pitcher. So that brow, which this is the V shape at the top, that brow comes down, right? But we also have to make sure that his eye underneath is matching that stare, okay? So we've got to make sure the intent of the drawing is emphasized with this brow shape. We're going to come up a little bit like a wrinkle and follow the shape of that eye down here like that. And because he's not smiling, these cheeks are kind of subdued here. He's got a lower lip. When that mouth is closed, you want to pronounce lower lip. And I'll just outline top of his head and the ears. As you can see, this sketch is already pretty well done, so we're just gonna okay. The nose is always wide at the top and it tapers down to a smaller rounded shape at the bottom. And now let's tackle his arm. So Mickey only has shoulders when he needs them. And if we're going to overlap his face with his arm, because his arm is going backward, that shoulder has to be emphasized. His sleeve has to be touching the top of his arm. We let gravity help us with that. And because the arm is facing kind of out this way, we curve like this. All right? And then we come in like that. You'll want gravity to take the sleeve down. You want to curve it in like this. And then that'll give us where we put his undershirt sleeve. And we're going to curve like this for proportion on the gloves. We're going to draw in the meat of his hand like this around that bat. And then while I'm here, I'm just going to draw in the handle and the knob there at the bottom of the bat. And now, let's just give those gloves some outline. And I'm going to give a little knuckle right here at the top to emphasize his grip there. The 3 lines on his gloves, the middle line is always the tallest, the longest. And now we're going to follow the handle, just like that, and draw in the meat of his thumb, like this. It's a rounded bottom part of his thumb, and then we get a little jagged line direction right there for the top of his thumb. Do that. And now I'm going to throw in those fingers like that. Let me just finish off that bat since I'm here. You want a thicker outline for the outer part of the outline of the character, and you want thinner lines for the inner details, like his eye line. Those lines are going to be thinner than the one that goes around the outside of his head. Alright, so let's go back into the clothing. So like I said before, we're going to follow the contour of the top or the outside of his body. So his back will be pushing the form of the shirt, and then it'll be nice and baggy on the front. Now, instead of drawing in a line for his shirt like this, like his pants would be lined like that, his shirt is going to be outlined differently, because we don't want to see his belly. We want that shirt to be oversized in the other direction. It's going to swoop downward in the front, and then it's going to come up around his backside. His legs, you always want to taper in the bottom of his pant legs. And because he's in a baseball uniform, these are tight pants anyway, you want to make sure no baggy lines. And because his leg is facing outward like this, the bottom of his pant leg is going to be curved upward like that. Give him his stirrup line there. And then we're going to overemphasize the tongue of his cleats, just like so. Always remember that no matter what, his shoes have to be as rounded as his yellow shoes. His feet don't get smaller just because they're in smaller shoes. All right. And because we want to emphasize he's wearing cleats, we'll give a little upturn to the front of the shoe so that we can show off the spikes. That was a little jagged. Mickey would never wear anything jagged like that. All right. So the under part of his shoe like that. Make sure it's all in line. And then give him that slight heel there to the bottom of his cleat. All right. Now his other leg, because it's his weight-bearing leg and it's going to be bent, it's going to be in the back. So that curve right here for the bottom of his pant leg is going to be turned downward the other way. And then we've got his stirrup, and then that monstrous tongue to his cleats there. Now we've already upturned the toe area of this cleat. We don't have to do that on this one. We do want to emphasize that he has spikes, so we'll just give a little hint to those spikes here like that. And there you have it. All right, guys, there you go. So, if you have any questions specifically about how to pose Mickey, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. If you have any questions about anything in particular, I would love to dive into that and show you how to properly pose him up. If you have specific questions about how to pose him for this, how to pose her for that, how a dress line goes on a princess, or how a sleeve will go with Goofy, you know, I'd love to hear what you have to say, and we'll do future videos. If you'd like to draw some more with me, I've got some other videos right here. Don't forget to give me the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when my next video is up. I want to thank you guys so much for drawing with me, and we'll see you later.